In astrology, Saturn represents discipline, hard work, boundaries, and restrictions. It represents rules and regulations that govern our lives, while also representing the outcomes of the decisions that we make. Saturn also represents the wisdom that we ultimately gain through experience. As a teacher or mentor, it ultimately pushes us to be responsible for our own lives. Saturn isn't always easy to work with, and I know this, but it can be a powerful ally for those who are willing to put in the work. Welcome back to Matriarch Astrology. I'm Ileana Reyes, your Hellenistic astrologer, and in today's video we are going to be talking about Saturn through the houses of the natal chart. And we're also going to be talking about where Saturn wants you to put in the work and how you can work with your Saturn based on which house it is in. So first we're going to be talking about Saturn in the first house. Saturn in the first house is going to represent seriousness, self-discipline, as well as being reserved, and also having a form of self-control. Now, feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt is going to really hinder you in something that you're wanting to achieve or any goals that you have set in mind. Saturn in the first house can also improve self-development as well as personal growth, because people with this placement are driven to improve themselves and their situation. Saturn in the first house can also indicate a sense of loneliness or being introverted or coming off as cold or standoffish to other people. Of course, this is not including aspects or anything like that, so just take it with a grain of salt. Now, the first house also represents the physical body, so Saturn being here is something that you're going to want to keep in mind when it comes to your body, especially the bones, the teeth, knees. Those are all represented by Saturn. Hair, also your skin, any type of health challenges with any of those is something that you want to keep in mind. So having Saturn here in the first house can be a bit tough. Of course, I feel like Saturn anywhere can be tough, but like I said and mentioned before, self-improvement is going to be very big with this placement. Self-improvement, inner strength, and a very high drive and determination. So here's the way that you can work with your Saturn in the first house. The first thing you're going to want to try to work on is developing a sense of self through organization and discipline. I'm sorry, my cat keeps going in and out of my thighs and just cutting in everywhere. So we're going to want to help build your self-confidence, and a good way of doing that would be by setting achievable goals and working really hard. And you can do this by cutting up your goals into smaller segments or smaller milestones so that you're able to celebrate each little step that you do. This is a way to help build that self-confidence. Of course, you are going to want to develop accountability for yourself by taking responsibility for your actions and any decisions that you have made, learning from your mistakes and not seeing that as a failure, but using it as a stepping stone. Learn to use and accept constructive criticism in order to improve yourself. So see that as another way to improve yourself and as a stepping stone. You're going to want to develop patience and persistence to get past any problems and reach your goals, while also practicing self-compassion, because this placement can be really hard on themselves. So always being able to practice self-love and self-compassion and really just honoring yourself and having patience and knowing that putting in the hard work will always gain you the things that you desire. It just takes a lot more time, because this placement is prone to being a little bit more harder on themselves, and I feel like that's something that this placement is going to want to incorporate when working with their Saturn, is also having some compassion for yourself and not being so hard on yourself. So to prevent from feeling overwhelmed, you're going to want to learn healthy strategies to cope with any type of stress. So you can learn this through YouTube videos, TikTok videos. There's so much information that we have available to us now to help with us with coping strategies, and even a therapist. Whatever way is suitable for you that you find helps you, just look into that and just incorporate what works for you. Next up, we have Saturn in the second house. So here we're going to see that Saturn may affect a person's finances, so they may feel extra responsible towards their money or their possessions. There may also be a fear of financial uncertainties or feeling like they need to be frugal with their money. There may be issues here with obtaining wealth or material goods. So financial stability is going to be needed with Saturn here in the second house. There could be a lot of fear here around money, a lot of anxieties around money or failure to obtain enough money to secure for themselves or for their family if they have a family. Oh my God. I'm trying to be serious, guys. Okay. There could be issues with self-worth and self-esteem here. This person could strive harder or feel like they need to work harder than anybody else to make money, or they could feel like money is delayed, because remember, Saturn also represents delays. It's obstacles, delays, restrictions, so they could feel restricted when it comes to finances and money. However, there's a lot of work ethic here because this person is going to really strive for that financial security. So that is a good positive thing. However, hard work can lead to financial success because with Saturn, when you put in the work, you get big rewards. So here are some tips on how to work with Saturn in the second house. You're going to want to build a realistic budget and also take responsibility for your finances or your financial situation. You're going to want to prioritize long financial goals over short-term goals, because there can be here maybe a tendency to want to achieve short-term things or get money quick type of things. And with Saturn, it's not about doing something fast or quick. Saturn's always about the long duration of something and putting in the work for a really long time. So prioritize those longer financial goals over short-term gains. You're going to want to develop a strong work ethic as well as discipline in your career. Also with Saturn here, you're going to want to spend less and try as much as possible to live within your means. When it comes to purchasing items or material things, here is quality over quantity. So you can buy something that is a lot more expensive, but it will last you longer. So let's say like stainless steel over plastic. I know that it's more expensive, but these more high quality things are probably most likely going to last you longer. So it is better to purchase those things instead of smaller, more cheaper things that are going to end up breaking and you're going to have to keep replacing them, and it just ends up costing about the same or more. Try to be a little bit more minimalistic if you can within your home or with your clothes or materials. You're going to want to recognize also the importance of hard work and delayed satisfaction, because Saturn's all about delayed satisfaction, but I promise you, he does give big rewards for hard work put in, but it is going to be long, hard work. Okay, next up we have Saturn in the third house. Saturn here in the third house may make people more cautious communicators. People with this placement may struggle to speak or communicate what they're feeling or thinking, or just trouble in general sharing their opinions with others. So Saturn being here in the third may make someone take a more serious approach when it comes to learning. They may study harder, slowing but deepening their learning. So this is somebody who may take time to really learn something. They may take longer than others to grasp. Doesn't mean that they don't understand it, but they may need to take their own time away in order to fully understand what's going on, and just want to have it maybe repeated a couple times so that they make sure that they really fully understand what they are learning. I don't have Saturn in the third, but I do have a Mercury in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. And when I was growing up, I felt that way. Like, I didn't get things pretty easily. I really needed to take my own time, and I learned this more, or I realized this more when I was in college, that I learn best on my own, and I do take a longer time to really get it through, because I'm really looking at every single detail and I'm making sure that I fully understand everything that I'm looking at, and it does take me longer. Saturn in the third house could also make you feel alienated from your siblings, or that you actually have to take care of them and take on a more mature role in taking care of siblings. Also, a lack of closeness or emotional connection could be experienced here with siblings. So here we're going to see overall challenges with communication, learning, and siblings. Also potentially neighbors, or having delayed short distance travel. So like if you're planning on traveling to another city, there could be delays on your plans of travel. Again, this is shorter distance. I'm not talking about long journeys like abroad or anything like that. People with Saturn in the third may need to overcome fear and anxieties of criticism in order to express themselves more confidently. And since these people study more diligently, they may become great teachers once they learn to embrace their way of learning, and once, of course, they become comfortable in speaking. Now, here are some ways to work with Saturn in your third house. So when communicating, you are going to want to be clear, concise and direct, and take charge of communications or any type of projects. Also, learning new skills will be very beneficial for you because Saturn being in the third house is ideal for learning. So use the opportunity to learn and grow in whatever field that you are interested in, whether if it's a hobby and writing or whether it's related to your job. So use the energy that you have there to learn whatever skills to further yourself and advance yourself. Remember, Saturn is about delays, so always expect delays wherever Saturn is. So with here, expect any type of delays with communication or delays with siblings or even writing and also learning. So always being willing to accept that and work with it. And of course, practice the wonderful art of patience. So you can do this by slowing down and organizing yourself so that you can achieve your goals. So be very resourceful, very organized, and just take things really slow. Saturn enjoys being structured and organized. So for example, like at work, have your desk really clear of any clutter, very organized, things and files so that you're not feeling scattered and you're able to really take your time. You know where everything is and you're not feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So being organized is something that if you don't already do, something to incorporate. And learning to self-reflect is very important with Saturn in the third house because Saturn being here brings some self-doubt and some nervousness. So having self-reflection is going to help you understand your emotions better and build self-confidence. Next up, we have Saturn in the fourth house. So some potential things with Saturn in the fourth house that we may see depending on aspects and other planetary placements, but very general. We could see a possible strict upbringing, a sense of loneliness within the home environment, or feeling unsupported in some type of way in your upbringing, which then may lead to withdrawal. This placement may also indicate a strong sense of family and also domestic responsibility, which then may lead you to feel a sense of responsibility of either your parent or caregiver, or just feeling like you have a lot on your shoulder, like a lot of hardship within the home, or just like a lot of obligations, a lot of responsibilities, like maybe having to do a lot of chores or having to take care of too many things within the home. Saturn in the fourth house may cause some challenges when it comes to authority figures in the home and maybe some boundary issues. Overall, this placement can also indicate a desire for security within the home, as well as stability and tradition. So here are some ways that you can work with Saturn in your fourth house. Now, Saturn is about structure and habit. Therefore, you are going to want to incorporate them in your daily lives. So you're going to want to do this by following a schedule and establishing a daily routine that really helps ground you. Now, the fourth house is about family and home, so you are going to want to prioritize that. So you're going to want to spend time with your family and create a supportive home by also setting strong boundaries and knowing not to overcommit yourself. Say no when necessary and know when to prioritize yourself. Be patient and hardworking is one important thing with Saturn always, because Saturn does honor determination. So don't be afraid to work hard to get what you want, and this could be within the home or taking time to build something within the home. And you're going to want to accept change with this placement because Saturn is a tremendous force of growth and change despite its limitations. So you're going to want to be open to new experiences and just trusting that Saturn being here in your fourth house is helping you grow personally and emotionally. Next, we have Saturn in the fifth house. Now, the fifth house represents creativity. It could also represent your approach to parenting, your children, sexual encounters or sexual partners, other type of pleasures and enjoyments and hobbies. So this person we're going to see here with Saturn in the fifth may develop their hobby into their career or may turn their hobby into their work. Saturn being here may also have a fear or self-doubt when it comes to their creative self, or feeling like they can't express themselves creatively. Saturn being here in the fifth house may have a person having a fear of failure because they feel a bit restricted or feel like they can't express themselves in a creative, fun, and unique way. So this person just may take a more structured and disciplined approach to creativity. So they are going to benefit from clear goals and a deadline. This placement can also indicate issues with self-expression, especially any type of social or sexual self-expression. Again, aspects and things like that depend. If the person is an adult and have children, it could also represent feeling or taking a more structured approach in parenting, or feeling that the child is restricting maybe their freedom in some type of way, or that the child feels a bit restricted to them. This is just, for example, like if somebody had Saturn in the 5th house and Saturn is not in a good sign and has hard aspects, then we can see a little bit more of a manifestation of that. That's why it really depends on the sign that Saturn's in, aspects it's making, and so much more. So here are some ways to work with Saturn in the 5th house. So with this placement, we're not going to want to let fear hold you back. So you are going to want to take risk here when it comes to expressing yourself in different ways and in new ways, and just maybe trying it little by little and seeing how that makes you feel, and just pushing yourself a little bit out of the comfort zone. You are going to want to make an importance on taking care of your inner child with this placement, and enjoy having fun without any feelings of shame or guilt. So just try to go back to childhood and see if you can remember anything that you enjoyed doing. For me, coloring was one of my favorite things to do as a child, and I still incorporate that as of today. Right now, as a 33-year-old woman, coloring is something that I do as a form of inner child work, because to me it's very healing. And whatever it is that you feel that you enjoyed to do as a child, try practicing and incorporating that back into your life. With this placement, you are going to want to take responsibility for your romantic relationships and avoid criticism or any type or form of control. Consider past mistakes as an opportunity to grow, and remember that persistence is always going to bring in long-term success and fulfillment. Next up, we have Saturn in the 6th house. Now, the 6th house represents health, everyday work, and also pets, and also your daily routines. So Saturn being in the 6th house may make someone really health conscious, or really aware of their physical body and their health, and really putting a lot of emphasis and work towards having a healthy body. Having Saturn here in the 6th house may indicate some stress when it comes to your daily routine, or that you could have a really strict daily routine. Being that the 6th house also represents being of service to others, having Saturn here may make you feel like you are bound to help and serve others, and this helps you in a way achieve your own fulfillment. Now, Saturn in the 6th house can also indicate overdoing it, overburdening yourself. Because you have such a dedication to serve others, this may cause a work-life imbalance, which then leads to burnout and could also lead to some physical health issues if you overextend yourself. So here are some ways to work with Saturn in the 6th house. So Saturn, of course, is about structure and habit and routine. So you're going to want to at least have that really good work schedule if you don't already have that. Cleaning and organizing your workspace, having a really clear space to have your work organized so that you don't feel overwhelmed by a scattered, messy area. And you're going to want to create reasonable goals to achieve as well. And with Saturn overall, we're not going to expect immediate results. So do have patience and persistence in whatever it is that you are doing, whether it's a hobby or taking care of something or working, because Saturn rules delayed gratification. So you're going to want to be confident that all of your efforts in your work will pay off. Just make sure that with this placement, you're learning how to balance out between working hard and not overextending yourself. So find a good equilibrium. Next up, we have Saturn in the 7th house. So this placement could suggest commitment anxieties or trouble making lasting connections. This placement can also indicate a preference for maybe older or more mature partners, or just a partner who's more serious when it comes to relationships. A person with this placement may need a relationship that is very steady and very structured in order to feel a sense of safety. Or it could be that a person with this placement needs to improve their own assertiveness and build their own relationship boundaries. Saturn being here may also represent having a duty or feeling like you have a duty towards your partner, while also having a willingness to overcome obstacles together. This placement can also indicate a need for relationship-centered personal improvement. So they could be better off doing a type of self-improvement if they know that their partner is doing it with them. So we want to be careful here with Saturn in the 7th house. house because there may be a need to balance your own personal needs with your partner's needs. So making sure that you're not over giving to your partner and making sure that you are taking care of yourself as well. As I mentioned, boundaries are going to be very important with somebody with Saturn in the 7th house, because you could also attract a partner that is too assertive or too domineering or too controlling in a type of way. So you're going to want to have really strong boundaries and assert yourself. So here are some good ways to work with Saturn in the 7th house. First, you're going to want to own your own responsibility for any type of issues within the relationship, because this placement could indicate some potential codependency issues or just projecting your own problems onto your partner or vice versa. So of course, like I had mentioned before, keeping very healthy boundaries, setting clear limits in your relationship, especially when it comes to what you will and will not put up with in a relationship. We are going to want to also improve the communication skills. Saturn can make communication a little bit more difficult, so we're going to want to practice active listening and direct assertive communication. Practice and develop dedication, as well as always patience with Saturn. And remember, Saturn also represents delays, so Saturn being in the 7th can delay or even complicate relationships. However, again, with patience and dedication, you can overcome these challenges and develop a very firm foundation. Also, you can grow a lot with this placement. Saturn being here can help you personally improve through relationships. So you're going to want to use any type of connections that you do have as a mirror to reflect back to you your own challenges and areas where you need improvement. So always using everything as a stepping stone. Next up, we have Saturn in the 8th house. So people with Saturn in the 8th house really value deep emotional connection, but at the same time, they struggle with trust and feeling vulnerable. So we could see here a fear of losing control, especially when it comes to shared wealth or resources. And having this placement, you may benefit from learning to let go and trust. Saturn here can also represent personal transformation or spiritual transformation or rebirth in a sense, because the 8th house is like that Scorpio rebirth, transformation, phoenix rising from the ashes type of energy. Now, Saturn can already tend to isolate itself, so we want to be very careful with Saturn being here in the 8th house, because there's also that need for secretiveness or secrecy with the 8th house and a need for seclusion. And when we overdo it by adding the Saturn in there, this can lead to loneliness or isolation to a more bigger extent. We also may see here a struggle with intimacy, because again, like I had mentioned before, there's just an issue here with trust. So you're going to want to approach these topics with sensitivity and compassion. There could also be a fear here related to death, or fearing death of loved ones or your own death, or having fear of anything related to money or taxes of other people. Or it could also be that you work in that field. There's a lot that depends here with these placements. So this is a very general video that I want everyone to take with a grain of salt, because it really depends on aspects and other planetary placements. But in general, these could be some indicators with Saturn here in the 8th house. Now, here are some good tips for working with Saturn in the 8th house. So Saturn being here in the 8th house, you are going to want to accept the lessons. So anything that represents shared resources or finances or inheritance, you are going to want to take control in that situation and work towards balancing anything that needs to be balanced. Don't be afraid of any of these situations and don't walk away from it. Instead, go towards it and be responsible for it, and be patient with yourself, and knowing that you are growing by working with these topics that may make you feel uncomfortable. So Saturn here also in the 8th house is going to want to need clear boundaries when it comes to intimacy and feeling like they can really trust. So you do want to spend time explaining that to your partner if that is the case that you have a partner. Now, Saturn here in the 8th is going to need boundaries when it comes to intimacy and trusting. So that is something that you are going to want to take time to explain to your partner. So spend time explaining your needs and your expectations within the relationship. And with this placement, I think that it will be very beneficial to seek or ask for outside help. And I mean, this could be by just a friend that you really trust, or better yet, a therapist or psychologist, whatever you want to call it, that can really help you get deep into those issues that you may have so that you're able to deal with them in a healthy way. Because remember, you don't have to do everything alone. Next up, we have Saturn in the 9th house. So someone with Saturn in the 9th house can have a really strong moral ethic. And this could be when it comes to religion or spirituality or even philosophy. Now remember that wherever Saturn's at, there will be obstacles and delays and a sense of hindering in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So since this is the house of higher education as well as long distance travel, there could be some delays when it comes to achieving higher education, or let's say like going to college or wanting to travel abroad. There could be some delays there, or even fears of traveling abroad, fears of going to college. But also this placement could help people develop a sense of self-discipline and attention to detail, which can help them reach academic or philosophical goals. So it's just mainly about putting in the work, because the Saturn is always about putting in that hard work. So knowing that yes, there is some fears here, yes, there is some delays. I may go to college later in life. Maybe let's say somebody decides to go when they're in their 30s instead of going fresh out of high school, but just know that Saturn gives you that ability and the persistence to stay in it for the long run and really be able to achieve that goal. So you do also have the staying power of Saturn. This placement may also lead to careers in, let's say, law, education, or any type of employment within a religious group or even a spiritual one that meet their needs for curiosity and also responsibility. So here are some ways that you can work with Saturn in your 9th house. So since Saturn is about structure and discipline, you're going to want to choose a schedule that works for you. This could mean making a plan, setting clear goals and clear deadlines, and starting a daily habit that is going to help you grow and improve. So to start, you can also consider maybe just attending a class or doing a small course instead of something larger, or reading a book on a subject that you're interested in, or even just visiting an inspiring place. It doesn't have to be a long trip abroad. Find joy within your own inner teacher, because Saturn in the 9th house can signify a gift of teaching or even mentoring. So you may want to consider teaching or coaching or even writing to share your knowledge. But it's always important to remember with this placement that Saturn being here can help you grow and to change. So having a willingness to learn and grow and also having discipline can really help you create a more meaningful and rewarding life. Saturn in the 10th house. Saturn in the 10th house indicates a strong desire for career power and control. So here we can see a really strong work ethic and a desire for professional success. So since Saturn brings setbacks, delays, obstacles, and limitations, we may see those setbacks and obstacles, delays, and limitations when it comes to career. However, Saturn always offers that with an opportunity for growth and also development. Now, Saturn is at home here also in the 10th house. I forgot to mention that Saturn is the traditional ruler of Capricorn and also Aquarius. So we haven't gotten to Aquarius yet, but Saturn is the ruler of the 10th house. So it is comfortable here in a sense, especially if it's in Saturn or if it is in Aquarius. So when it comes to career, we are going to see a desire for order and organization within the work field or within your career of choice. But we are going to need patience and endurance to really ride it out for the long haul with Saturn here. So success may take time, but with a lot of effort. But with Saturn being here, there is a really strong drive for success. So it's also somebody that's willing to put in that work. So here's good ways to work with Saturn in your 10th house. So no surprise here, hard work and discipline is going to be necessary. I think that'll come easier to maybe a more structured, maybe cardinal sign there on the 10th, or Capricorn on the 10th that's already used to working hard anyways, but maybe just accepting that this is going to be the case, or more likely can be the case. Of course, aspects always depend here, but it could be the case. So just learning to accept that this can most likely be the situation of having to learn to wait and learning to work with those delays and using those as stepping stones and using them for development. So here you're also going to want to put your energies on progressively advancing in the direction of your career goals. Take ownership of any mistakes or your actions when it comes to your career, because Saturn is responsible and accountable. So just admit any faults and fix them. And as I already mentioned here, but I'm going to say it again, is to have patience, because Saturn may cause those delays and setbacks, and also teaching you to allow things sometimes to occur naturally. You don't always have to put in so much effort and so much work, and sometimes it could just happen naturally and grow on its own. A good advice also would be to find mentors or other teachers or some type of advisors to help you with your career goals or your pursuits. Having Saturn here in the 10th house can also be a bit lonely. That is why direction and support from an advisor or a type of mentor is crucial. And also remember that Saturn does want to help you succeed. So learning to accept your challenges will help you succeed. Next up, we have Saturn in the 11th house. Again, depending on the sign placement, it could be challenging or a little bit easier here, because let's say if it's Aquarius, it's also ruled by Aquarius here in traditional astrology, so it could be a little bit easier to work with. So you would have to see what sign it's in and aspects. But here we may see a sense of social duty. People with this placement may lead groups, or they may feel bound to contribute to groups in some type of way. Saturn being here may also impact relationships, because this is the house of friendships, it's the house of luck, internet, social media. So having Saturn here may make you feel isolated in a sense. You may feel lonely or even emotionally detached to other type of friends or friend groups or social groups. However, we may see social success here with Saturn in the 11th house, which then may make it easier for you to prioritize work or even your personal life above socializing with social groups or friends, peers, which then could increase that isolation. So we're going to want to find a way here to balance any type of success with social support. Also, you're going to want to delegate any type of task here and put a strong emphasis and prioritize self-care. So here are some tips on working with Saturn in the 11th house. It will be important to maintain order in your relationships, especially friendships, being that this is the house of friendships. You're going to want to set achievable social goals and stick to those goals. Choose friends wisely and carefully and consider their influence on you and vice versa. And you're going to want to work on developing long-term partnerships with friends or social groups based on respect and or similar ideas of being or similar ways of being. Also, a good tip with Saturn here, I think, would be allowing yourself to be okay with being alone sometime. I'm not saying that it's not okay to be alone, just making sure that it's not going to the extreme, but it is okay to get used to being alone, and you can really use that alone time to think about what it is that you want to get out of your social life. Also, in social settings, we'll need to take responsibility for your own part and work on changing any bad habits or behaviors that you may have. Now, when it comes to social relationships, you are going to want to avoid being too stiff or too rigid and just be a little bit more open to different ideas or perspectives. Now, remember to be patient with yourself as you are learning to work on building a happy social life. And just remember that growth and development do take time. And last, we have Saturn in the 12th house. So here we're going to want to embrace solitude. Saturn is at home here in the 12th house. It's actually the house of its joy. But of course, this is all going to be depending on what sign it is in and aspects. So we're not going to go through that in this video, but that's something to keep in mind. However, Saturn also here can make you feel isolated or alienated in some type of way. So taking advantage of this alone time is going to be important to work on your own growth and development. So practicing awareness is going to be a great way to do this, and this could be through meditation or other type of mindful activity. This can help you achieve a sense of peace. So setting boundaries is going to be important here with Saturn in the 12th house. house, because having Saturn here could cause you to take on issues of others or even others' feelings that don't innately belong to you. So avoiding burnout is going to be important with this placement, setting strong boundaries and self-care. Trying therapy is going to be a very important thing if it is something that you can have access to, of course. Therapy is going to help you work through your own emotional issues that you may have, but there's a lot of forms of therapy, anything that you find that helps you. And this is also a creative energy here as well. So art therapy can be something that you can do. I know there's YouTube videos on art therapy that is really helpful. I actually do art therapy on my own. I don't have this placement, but I find that art therapy helps me. And the 12th house is also related to creativity as well. So if therapy with a therapist is not something that you're able to do for whatever reasons, then looking for other alternatives is going to be helpful as well. Having Saturn in the 12th house can also connect you spiritually to the unseen. So learning to accept this and following your journey can be very helpful with this placement. And remember that you may need breaks from daily life occasionally with this placement, and know that that is okay. That is a form of self-care. Now here are some tips on working with Saturn in the 12th house. Be open to any type of, as I mentioned before, meditation, mindfulness work. Spirituality can really be a great benefit for you because there is a lot of spiritual energy here with the 12th house. So if you are open to working with anything like oracle cards as divination to help you with any type of issues you're having, or the tarot, or meditation, deep breathing, sometimes even talking with another spiritual mentor can be helpful as well. Being around a body of water, because this is the house of Pisces, maybe going out into the ocean and swimming is a good way to help replenish and rejuvenate your energy. So, or just any body of water that's out in nature, that's possible, that may be something that's close to you. And if not, even just a salt bath, and taking a bath with some sea salt can be helpful as well. Having Himalayan salt lamps as well within the home can really help you balance out your own energy. Also, I think that diving into different forms of spirituality with healing could be good. So long distance Reiki, or even personal Reiki, working with crystals, anything like that to really help you, not bind, I'm sorry I said bind, to really help you balance out your mind, body, and spirit. And remember, there's obstacles and delays with Saturn anywhere it goes, and there is going to be effort and hard work that may be put here. So it may not be comfortable at first, but knowing to be organized and maybe even setting a daily routine for any of these practices can be helpful and beneficial. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that this has helped you. And remember, this was very general. This does not go any deeper with aspects or any type of placement that Saturn may have, as in what sign it was in or anything like that. So it's very general, but I hope overall that it has helped you guys. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.